So what is this that I have in my hand? We've all heard of it. A lot of us even have our hiking gear made out of it. So in this video, I'm going to answer the question, what is DCF, otherwise known as Dyneema Composite Fabric? Let's go. Hello fellow hiker and long-term world traveller, Russ here, bringing you the best tips and inspiration for hiking around the world. And welcome to Material Mondays, my YouTube series dedicated solely to the topic of the materials that our hiking gear is made out of. In this series I'm going to be cutting, scraping, burning, pulling, ripping and tearing as many materials that I can possibly get my hands on to show you guys everything that you need to know. I'm going to be talking about what they are, how strong they are, how waterproof they are, how durable they are, what they're used for, all of the prices and things like that, so that you guys have all of the information that you can get in this one series. So what is Dyneema Composite Fabric? Well, it is this stuff. This is the stuff that Hyperlight Mountain Gear use in all of their backpacks, and they lovingly sent me these swatches all the way from the USA. So what is Dyneema Composite Fabric? Well, there is definitely a big clue in the name, and that is the word composite, and that means that it's made out of more than one material. One of those materials is Dyneema. But what is Dyneema, you ask? I mean, there's so much science in this topic, but if I just get one of these samples, I'll put the rest down, and it's basically this stuff. If this camera focuses, yep, there we go. You should be able to see all of these kind of filaments just kind of going through the entire fabric. I mean, you can just about see my face going through it, but basically the Dyneema is these threads that are lined crisscross one way and crisscross the other way throughout this fabric. Dyneema Composite Fabric is a laminate fabric, and what that means is it's basically a set of 3 layers of different materials all sandwiched. In the middle you've got the Dyneema filaments, and on the outside you've got think of it as like a sandwich where you've got the bread on the bottom and the top. The 2 bread layers are basically really thin polyester film. Dyneema filaments are 15 times stronger than steel, and a lot of sources say that it's the strongest fibre in the world. Dyneema is simply the brand name given to the fibre by a company called DSM. DSM is an absolutely incredibly huge company with over 21,000 employees, and they focus on a lot of scientific research into things like materials such as Dyneema. This topic leads me on to a history lesson so I can explain to you how all of this started. Back in 1992 there was a yacht race called the America's Club, and in that yacht race was a yacht called America Cubed. The yacht America Cubed was actually fitted with a really strong, really lightweight material to use for its sails. Because of its strength to weight ratio, this material turned out to be a really good material when applied to be used as sailcloth. Any yacht fitted with this material for its sailcloth ended up having a much higher performance rate than any of the yachts using traditional materials. After all, the racing yacht teams cottoned on that this material led to extremely high performance. They realised that a company needed to be created to manufacture it in high quantities, and so CUBEN Tech was born. And of course, CUBEN Tech was named after the boat America Cubed, which first started to use this material. The name that they gave the material was actually CTF3, but CUBEN Fibre cottoned on with all of the media attention that it was getting, so CUBEN Fibre was the name that everybody seemed to stick with. In 2015, CUBEN Tech was acquired by DSM, the huge company that I mentioned earlier, and they renamed CUBEN Fibre to Dyneema. So Dyneema is just the new brand name for the previously known CUBEN Fibre. So DCF is just the acronym for Dyneema Composite Fabric, which everyone seems to just shorten it to. The actual scientific name for these fibres in this composite fabric is ultra high molecular polyethylene, and that is these little filaments that you can see in the Dyneema Composite Fabric. That is what Dyneema is. Dyneema is the strongest fibre in the world, but it's not very durable against abrasion, so they have to add other materials to the actual Dyneema filaments to make it stronger for abrasion. So what's the other materials that DCF is usually made out of to make the Dyneema filaments more durable against abrasion? Most of the time you'll see DCF fabrics, which are basically the filaments of Dyneema sandwiched between 2 thin layers of polyester film. The polyester film on its own isn't actually very strong, but when you get this crisscross of Dyneema filaments, threads of pure Dyneema completely put through this composite fabric, it makes it incredibly strong. Like, I can't pull that apart and tear it. If I try hard enough, like, there's just no way that this thing is actually going to split. If this was just 2 thin layers of polyester film, that whole thing would have just ripped apart like cling film. DCF for its weight is incredibly strong, and it's also 100% waterproof. So you know those plastic ponchos, those disposable ones that are brilliant? If it really chucks it down, you just put one on and the water just runs off it. Imagine that just basically reinforced with Dyneema filaments. The Dyneema basically acts as a skeleton so the polyester films actually can't stretch. So it's kind of like when you get concrete blocks and they reinforce them with steel. It's the same principle but on a very small scale. This Dyneema composite fabric can also have a backing which we also call a face fabric, and in this sample we've basically got the same material on the back, which you can see the filaments just there, but on the other side it's basically got 100% woven Dyneema on the other side. If I get really close, you can just about see the woven Dyneema on that side. They don't only make DCF face fabrics out of Dyneema filaments just like this one, they also make them out of a woven nylon as well, so you can get them a lot cheaper. It's not as strong as the 100% woven Dyneema, but it's definitely another option to think about. Making the face fabrics for DCF in this way and applying it to the Dyneema composite fabric underneath really helps with durability against abrasion, cuts and scrapes, and also makes it one of the strongest fabrics known to man. They even use it to make bulletproof vests out of, and there's so many other applications. It's really an amazing thing. Now, I said that this material is 100% waterproof, which it is, except when our backpacks and our tents are made out of it, they have to sew it, which puts loads of little holes in it, so they have to seal the seams to make it waterproof, and over time those seam sealings will actually start to come loose. So the older our items of gear get, the less waterproof they will become, so that's definitely something to keep in mind. This black swatch of DCH 150 is the exact same material that my Hyperlight mountain gear 2400 has been made out of, but over the course of the year, even though this thing is completely seam sealed, which you can see there, the seam seals have actually started to degrade slightly, and that is expected with hundreds of miles of hiking that I've put on it. So over time it is less waterproof than it was when I started, so there's another thing to keep in mind. I just really want to manage your expectations with these kind of things. Yes, they are waterproof, but for a limited time only. So over time I've actually started to really need like a DCF pod or a pack liner or something like that, so when it gets into torrential kind of downpours, I know that my stuff inside is going to be 100% dry. This stuff is just such a weird material to touch. It's kind of like cling film. It's almost the same kind of thickness. It sounds really weird. It's just very, very odd. It's not like any other material that I've come across. You could say it's kind of like plastic, which is what you can feel on the outside layers, but as soon as you can feel those kind of Dyneema filaments on the inside, if you scrape your fingernail along it, you can actually feel them like a grid within the two layers of polyester film. It has quite a crunchy texture, so if you were to buy a backpack that's made out of this stuff, or even a tent, you'll feel and hear that it's kind of really crunchy and really weird to feel in your hands. I can't really describe it just by the picture. You really have to get your hands on some of this stuff yourself to really get an understanding of what it feels like. A lot of people, when they see gear that's made out of DCF for the first time, they're like, why is it so expensive? Like, it's just like plastic, but that's the point. It's just like plastic, but it is so much stronger than just having a plastic tent or a backpack. I find it incredible that this material that was originally used for sailcloth is in the hands of us hikers and world travelers, so that we can use backpacks and tents that are made out of it that are so much lighter than your traditional gear, and it's very accessible. There's so many companies out there using it, but it's incredibly expensive. To get an initial roll of this, to order it from the manufacturer, you'd have to be looking at spending at least £40,000 just to get a look in. It's incredibly expensive, so that's why a lot of these smaller cottage companies aren't really using it, and they're switching to something else like X-Pack, which I'm going to go over in Material Mondays series very, very soon. So that explains why a lot of the items of gear that we know and love, which are made out of DCF, are so expensive. I mean, my Hyperlight mountain gear was about $350 something to buy, and it just goes to show the reason why is because it's so expensive to buy from the manufacturer for these companies to get hold of. So that's what Dyneema Composite Fabric is. I've got an entire selection of swatches here to go over, and I'm going to be going over those in my next video. But just to give you a quick overview of what they are, I've got DCF 8. This is the thinnest one that they sent, and they sent that to me in like a green colour and a white colour. They've also got the next one up, which is, you can feel that it's much stronger, which is DCF 11. And then they sent me DCH 50 in white, which has a face fabric on it. Getting heavier still, they've got DCH 150, which is what my black Hyperlight mountain gear 2400 is made out of. And then finally, and I know that they've missed one, but this is the last one that they gave me, which is DCHW. There's a lot of background and information about these materials on their website. So if you go to their website, hyperlightmountaingear.com, and go to the footer and then go technology, they've got all of the information that you need on these materials, which is very, very handy. I want to give you a very good idea as to what all of these swatches are and what Hyperlight mounting gear uses them for, so I'll be going over all of that in my next video. Campfire question: what DCF products do you own and why? Please do let us know in the comments section below. The Trail Hunter community would absolutely love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it, and I'll see you in the next episode of Material Mondays.